welcome. It's so nice to see so many of you here, and thank you for coming all the way, those who came all the way from Stellenbosch, Muizenberg. So we're really excited about the lecture today. Professor Lynn Hendricks, I'm sure you all know her. She's a leading scholar and practitioner in the fields of public health, social justice, and participatory research. She has a deep commitment to community-led approaches and ethical research practice. Prof. Hendricks brings extensive experience in using innovative, arts-based and collaborative methods to address complex social and health issues. And today she's going to be sharing some of her wisdom with us, and we're really excited to welcome her. And one thing that many of you might not know about Lynn is that she loves drawing. So welcome, Lynn, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm so happy to see so many people here, but also feel really pressurized to say something very insightful. And what I would like to share today is just some of our key learnings and experiences. So some of you may have seen some of these slides already, cut and paste within other presentations, because the work hasn't changed. It's just grown and evolved over time. So we're going to speak a little bit about community-engaged research methods. We're going to touch on participatory methodologies. We'll see how they've evolved also, because it's not the same as it used to be. We've got so many more tools and resources at our disposal that it makes participatory methods actually a place for new innovation almost daily. And I think it also invites us to work in this very transdisciplinary way. Gone are the days where people work in silos in their own disciplines. I think we all realize that the issues that we face are complex, and that more brains around the room and around the challenge actually makes a big difference. So we are from the Division of Health Systems and Public Health, which is in the Department of Global Health, and all our research centers around these values. We call them the I Care 2 values within our department. It's inclusivity, compassion, accountability, respect, excellence, and equity. And I feel like that is a really good starting point for any researcher when they're thinking about who do they want to work with, what do they want to investigate, and how do they want to do it. So I'm also representing our public square. Can I see any of the members of the CEDO public square? Can you raise your hand? I love this group. So our public square focuses primarily on the social and environmental determinants of health. It doesn't mean that we all do the same research. It means that we all come together to think about how can we stimulate more creative innovation in the challenges that we have in our own independent projects, but also together. So one of the key challenges or research questions that we started looking at last year was, what do we actually mean when we say the environmental determinant of health? How do we define the environment? And so we have embarked on a collaborative research project across our disciplines to think about what do we mean by the environment when we think about health research. And that includes looking at some of the qualitative data we collected in our public engagement workshops. It includes looking at what has been published in the literature, but also looking at the drawings and the crafts that people have made in the workshops that we have held, some in this room and some in other spaces of the university. So I've put this slide in just so that you can get familiar. We're going to use Paul EV about 4 times in this presentation, but I would like you to try and use it now. Hopefully no one is feeling sad, but if you are, you can say so because it's anonymous. You can either scan the barcode, or you can punch the link into your computer or onto your phone. The link is up in the blue above, and the barcode is here on top. And you can just write one word, or if you have multiple emotions and multiple personalities, you can enter more than one word. It's also completely okay. I saw nervous, pressurized, and inspired, and okay. And if anyone knows what the SWA can be the start of, swamped. We'll just go with the flow. Yeah, hopefully this cloud will just grow like all the way. I see some people of stress, and I know it's that time of year, so I really do appreciate you making the time to be here for this hour, and for us to start speaking about what this participatory methods for transdisciplinary research is, which is my absolute favorite thing to talk about. So I will try not to go over time because I really love talking about this. I think participatory research is so exciting. It's something that you can embed into every research project. Doesn't matter if it's a lab-based study. You can get people in there. You can engage the community in some way. Whether it's at the beginning, talking about what you must investigate, whether it's in the middle, helping them and see what do they see, what meaning do they make from your findings, or at the end, how are we going to communicate this to others? Or what is the best way? Or maybe they are the best messenger for what you have found. So when we think about this, we're going to try this poll thing one more time. Let's think about transdisciplinary research. What does that mean? This transdisciplinary word, when we started using it, I think maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, people were really confused. And they were using it interchangeably with multidisciplinary. Yeah, but actually, it means something more. It means the plug fits in more than one thing, more than one socket. And when we think about transdisciplinary research, we have actually moved quite far from working within our one discipline. So when you're working just in your discipline, in your area, and everybody else works in the same area as you, you are working in one discipline only. You are looking at it using the theories that come with that discipline, the methods that come with the discipline, and how the methods evolve in that said discipline. But the foundation remains the same, right? Then you move to a multidisciplinary approach. And here, there's no merging of the understanding. It means that you are approaching a problem in two ways. So either from a psychological point of view, or from a health point of view, or from an environmental point of view, but you are dealing with different parts of the problem from different perspectives. But the one is only connecting to one part of the problem, if that makes sense, which tends to happen a lot. So everybody investigates HIV. But then we have the biochemists investigating it in the lab. We have reporters speaking about how we speak about HIV in the media. Then we've got social scientists looking at the social impact of HIV. But everyone just works on their one area. Until someone somewhere had a friend, I guess, that they were really close to. And they said, what if we did this together? What if we joined forces and tried to understand from multiple perspectives how this problem can be solved? Or what are the solutions that we can do together? But those friends were still in academia. They were working across departments, across faculties. They were still housed inside the institution. Do academics know everything? Asking the academics, do you know everything? We don't know everything. Nobody does. You are the expert of your own life, right? Now imagine you read in the paper an academic was telling you how to raise your children. Sure, some of these principles could be right, But does it match your specific context, your specific values, your worldviews, your upbringing, your beliefs, your partner, your relationship, your income? There's so much more to make these solutions contextual. And so we have now moved to a transdisciplinary way of thinking. This means it's also outside of the institution. It's also the artist. It's also the taxi driver. It's also the stay-at-home home executives and the nannies and the people that are doing everyday jobs, who are the real experts. I always tell my students, we actually are indebted to the public with our research, because there would be no research data without them. Your whole study would fail. You'd have to falsify your data, and you'd have to pretend that you had participants. But we actually need them to make our research possible. We are all experts at different things. Researchers, academics have expertise in designing studies with rigor, in a scientific way. We have ways of putting those thoughts together and making sense of it. And we have ways of writing it up and producing evidence in a way that others can consume. That is our gift, that is our expertise. But it doesn't mean we're an expert at everyday lived experience. So we need to work with others to make this research possible and relevant. Transdisciplinary research says, give us the wicked problems. We can do it here. This is where we house problem-driven research. It focuses on issues that need systemic solutions. It looks at things like health equity. And later I'm going to give you an exciting announcement around health equity. But things that can't be solved in silos, that need many minds applying itself, many ways of thinking, and many lived experiences and expertise in this. It also says it must co-produce knowledge. What does co-production mean really? If you co-produce something, if you have a music soundtrack and you take it and you add parts to it, is that co-production? That's a remix. That's what academics do with data. We remix data and then we produce reports from it. But that's not co-production. What is real co-production? And this is also very hard to define, because I almost think there is a scale of co-production. Does anyone want to take a chance? I'm not messing with Paul E.V. again. But let me down now. What does co-production mean to you? More than one. Anyone else? More than one doing what? Producing mixtapes. It also says that co-production means we are doing this together. So more than one. I can't co-produce on my own unless I do it with all my personalities. But you have to be working with somebody. And co-production, like I said, is not always feasible. Okay, this is something we try to achieve. But not every study means it has to be co-produced. Why do I say that? Because the research question determines the methodology. You don't decide, I'm going to co-produce and now I'm going to think about my question. You think about where's the gap, where's the relevance, what's my question, and what method is best. And sometimes, most times, co-production is the answer, especially in contexts like ours that is multicultural, with different people navigating the same space. And co-production can happen at any time. It can happen when you think about the question. It can happen when you put boundaries around your sample. It can happen when you are deciding on which methods you're going to prioritize, what you're going to do when, what is relevant for whom, how many people. Co-production can happen at the analytic phase, at the data collection phase. It can happen even when you're writing up reports. So I remember when I was producing the video with young women living with HIV, my aim was to be to have a co-produced project from the very beginning, meaning from the proposal writing phase, which in a doctoral school doesn't work well because they want you to have something to hand in to go to ethics. But what that means is that you are already determining what that research is going to look like before you even recruit participants. So we did it in phases. We said we're going to get ethics approval for a co-produced proposal writing. And so then we got people involved. And then if there were changes, we made amendments and said, okay, this is what the co-production means and this is what we're going to do. But even then, we didn't have specific questions we were going to ask. And you know how they feel about that. They want every question, even the hello, how you, my name is. They want to see it all. And on that appendix, I said the questions will be decided on by the participants. What do they want to ask and talk about? It's not up to me, actually. But it means that that willingness needs to turn into evidence. You have to be able to justify why you are able to do that. And it's about these three things. Truly understanding what co-production is and the value of co-production, thinking about what is the challenge that you are addressing and why can't it be addressed just through one specific perspective, and what is the power of integrating methods across disciplines. And so once you can think about those, then you can confidently say, give me the wicked problem. Working across disciplines is easy if you have people working together who have the same values, who have the same openness. But if you're working in a transdisciplinary group and one person is determined or cannot see beyond their own perspective, it makes it really hard because they're going to keep going back to that. They're going to keep being drawn to the default. And you have to let go of the default. I don't know if it's on this slide or if it was on a previous slide, where one of my key phrases is unconventional research, unconventional findings demands unconventional methodologies and unconventional teams. Like, for example, the new project we're working on is around astronomy and mental health. Where is that connection? What does looking at the stars have to do with how you make positive health choices? But the connection must be there. But we didn't know how. So we got some people together from different disciplines and we tried to thrash it out and try to figure out, knowing the theories that you know from astronomy, what you know from mental health, what you know from being a sandpark ranger, what you know from being an oceanographer, what you know from being a nature psychologist, the models that you come with, where's the meeting ground? How do we synergize this to make sense? Because we all know when you're immersed in nature, it does something to you. We all know how great it is to be on a camp for those who like glamping or hoteling. When you look outside from your hotel, there's something in it when you look at the stars, when you look at the moon. But our jobs as academics is to make the evidence available for that. And we can only do that through transdisciplinary research. So there is a generic process that transdisciplinary research follows. And I'd like to share that with you. The first is the framing and engagement. So this is where you actually convene your group of people together, where you say, this is what we want to do. It's like this astronomy project. I happened actually at the Science Communication Conference. I met my colleague Dominic from the Office of Astronomy. I was like, what you do is fascinating. He's like, what you do is fascinating. I was like, okay, let's do something together. But how do we even merge these things was the question we had. And so after almost a year, we went on a camp, I think a couple of months ago, where we invited all these other people, and we spoke about this. How does this work together? So we started to frame our problem. We convened a group of people. Then we went into the co-design phase. And I think that's where we are now, where we looked at what are the research questions we want to ask. The evidence isn't there in the African context. So what types of questions can we ask to start the conversation about this? But we also have to respect different ways of knowing. One thing that came out at the camp was that culture plays a very big role as a mediator between the night sky and between health. People grow up believing different things about the night sky. There are stories about the night skies that are passed down from generation to generation. But we wouldn't have known that if we didn't invite the Sandpark Rangers to our conversation. After the co-design phase, where we start thinking about how are we going to do this, what questions are we going to ask, what methods are we going to use, who are we going to use to do these different parts of the research project. Once you get ethics approval, which I believe we have, which is wonderful, now you move to the next part, which is the joint knowledge production. I have seen many times, especially as a junior researcher, how ideas are subsumed by other people. So you have a great idea, you pitch it out there, you say what it is, and all of a sudden someone with more funding and resources runs and they go. But that's not really in the spirit of joint production, right? Because what we are moving towards is where you say, that's fascinating, I'd like to do it too, can I join your group? And the group says, yes please, more heads are better than one. Or you say, I've got resources, I want to invest in this, what can I do to be a part of it? That's what real collaboration is. And then an openness. Then all of a sudden we break open this feeling of working together. If you think about the climate as it is now with funding cuts, people are going to become really protective of their research, which really goes against this transdisciplinary way of thinking, this collaboration, participatory methodologies. Because we can't want to practice participatory methodologies, but then when we do our own work, we're not really participating or being collaborative in nature. So I do think it takes I go back to a mind shift. It's a want, it's a need, it's a desire. Once you have jointly produced the knowledge, so either through your workshops or your studies, your surveys, your interviews, your focus groups, whatever it may be, you then move into this integration and reflexive phase. I saw a paper the other day that spoke about the difference between reflection and reflexivity, which I think is such an important distinction to make. Because I can easily reflect to you what you have said, but it's not as easy for me to be reflexive in practice on an iterative basis. What is this group saying? What are we finding? What are these new insights? And what does that mean for me in my discipline? How can I evolve my discipline by these learnings? How can I evolve these learnings with my discipline? Okay, so really thinking through and integrating is a really important step. Because it's pointless to do things in a transdisciplinary way, but then when we analyze it, we're not able to integrate our findings. And your transdisciplinary research must move your discipline forward. And lastly, action and transformation. We have to translate these findings in some way, and here it invites another layer of transdisciplinary thinking. We saw a beautiful presentation last week from the Center for Life Course Research, where they had artists interpreting the stories of young children into these beautiful portraits that we could all reflect on, look at, enjoy, think through, be affected by. And the artists were there talking about their work and the process that they followed. If that layer was gone, the authenticity of that project would have been on the paper and text. But it invited another layer of transdisciplinary creatives. And it invited us into a special place that the paper just doesn't give you. So in all of this, there must be some benefits and challenges. I purposefully combined challenges into 3 so that it would go like that. But the benefits really are for holistic understanding and ways of seeing problems that might not necessarily have happened before. It also brings with it innovative solutions. And our purpose as academics is to advance knowledge, is to produce evidence. But we don't advance knowledge just for the sake of saying, oh, I made this new discovery, oh, this is new knowledge. It's to build evidence so that more people can build on top of it. Right? Just because you discover something, it doesn't belong to you anymore, even if your name is there. It's out in the world now. It belongs to all of us. It affects all of us. And now we are able to build on top of that. So it also brings with it enhanced relevance. The more people that are in the room, the more relevant the findings will be afterwards. Because then they take it home to their own spaces. They make sense of it in different ways. And it also leads to capacity building. This is the beautiful thing about transdisciplinary research. You're going to get capacity building whether you like it or not. It's going to transform you whether you like it or not. You're going to learn something new whether you like it or not. It's just the nature of the work. On the other hand, like I said, sometimes there are institutional and resource barriers. It's not always possible. But it is possible to keep working towards building this type of project. So it might not be possible now, but you can build in different ways to get there eventually. You can also choose at which layers or parts you want to be transdisciplinary. If you can only afford to have it in the protocol writing phase, the proposal writing phase, then do that. And say, I had multiple reviewers from multiple disciplines looking at this. So I feel confident that this is going to work. If you can only do it at the end in the science communication dissemination phase, that is also okay. Okay, but don't feel that your study is bad because you're not doing it. The question determines the method. Whenever you're thinking about a research study, it's what is your expertise, what are your resources, and what is the relevance? And those 3 things will always determine the boundaries of what you can and can't do. And then there's also the issue of power imbalances. So this is a very dangerous area. And so you have to have some skill and expertise in trying to manage the power imbalances in the room. If I reflect back on our public engagement workshops that we hosted here with community members and other stakeholders, it's very easy for us to assume positions of power because you coming into the academic space, we the academics, we know the answers. So we spent a lot of time preparing ourselves. What are the small things we can do to make sure that we manage those power imbalances? Like, for example, not having somebody stand in front of the room. That was very important. Rather, sitting at the tables, walking around, and only minimally using the mic when we needed to. 5 minutes in the front, 5 minutes at the end. It was also about how we spoke to one another. So calling each other by our names, making sure that everybody felt welcomed, no congregating, right? So there are small things you can do, but it's always important that when you embark on this phase, especially if you're thinking around working with the public or the community, that you involve someone with expertise that can either capacitate you or support you in that whole journey. And then communication barriers. This can be very difficult, I would say, not only for language, but also disciplines. I love when people just rap like all the keywords from their disciplines and I have no idea what they're saying. And that can happen in these transdisciplinary groups. You don't know what people are talking about. But if everyone just took it down a notch, simple, plain English, and said, this is what we're trying to do, it can improve the communication in the group. But also maybe having a good moderator in the group that says, so what this person is trying to say is, or can you try to explain that in a different way, please? Okay, again, these challenges can be mitigated, but transdisciplinary research is a journey of transformation, like I said, but you have to be humble, you have to really want genuine collaboration, and you have to have a commitment to integrating diverse ways of knowing. And that is at the heart of scientific inquiry. So I'm going to take a breath there, and I'm going to ask you about these blocks that you have in front of you. Marina, did you get a message?
What message? I don't know.
Did you get a message, Jill? Who got a message about the blocks and about the bag? Did you get a message, Danielle?
I don't think so.
So who got the message? You can take as much as you want out of the bag and whatever you want.
No, it wasn't a physical message. It was a message that was supposed to pass.
So where did it stop?
Stopped at the beginning.
Praise God.
Passed it on.
Did you pass on the message?
No, I didn't. I passed the bag on.
So what made you not pass the message?
I don't know. It's just that she told me, take what you want. No? Yeah. Okay. Obvious. Take what you want.
Yeah, so you thought like this is obvious. You can take what you want out of the bag, and you assumed it was just her telling you.
Yes.
You didn't know that you had to pass on the message.
Lynn said, take what you want from the bag.
So why didn't you tell her the message? Because you just assumed she would know, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've all been taking stuff from the
So when you received the bag, what were you thinking, Chanel?
Well, I saw the bag passing. I just thought I should take some. And I looked at the bag and I just also thought of others. I just made sure that I get enough and I leave enough for the rest of the team.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, I'll get you now this one.
I was distracted by the marshmallows.
There's so many layers of lessons here.
Thank you. So because I looked at you when you put the bag down, I kind of figured what was happening. So by the time the bag got to Keegan, I saw him handing out to others, and I said to him, there's method in you only taking for yourself. So that was the message that I created for myself, and I thought I'd pass it on to him.
So Tegan, you decided to hand out for everybody. Why did you do that?
Because he's a sharer.
Thought it was just more efficient and less noise.
Because you could hear the bag.
Yeah. But I think you did it on purpose, right?
I did. I mean, I could have used the Woolies bag. Would have been so much easier. So, Prof. Peter, how many blocks did you take?
I think there are 3.
And what did you make with your blocks?
I just put them together. But the funny thing is, why I took them is because I saw everyone picking. So I said, oh, how many did you pick? I even asked her, how many did you pick? So so that I can, maybe there's a number that has been given for each one to pick.
Yeah.
But I really didn't know why we were picking them. I just picked because I saw everyone picking.
So there are some of you that put your blocks together, and some of you, I see Marina, you've got a beautiful castle here that will take home just like that. And some of you didn't put your blocks together. Is there a reason? Jill, why didn't you put it together? But they are arranged very nicely.
Because I thought you were going to ask us all to make something together. It's going to be a co-production process after
We get in there. So, I mean, there are so many things that happened here, right? Just with this one bag, a simple toy. But what it shows you is that I can say, let's all work together. But if I don't give clear messaging, if people don't know what they're supposed to do, people make their own assumptions. But also people start giving themselves direction. I mean, everyone around here is smart. So you think, okay, this is going to work best. Let me do it this way and make this more efficient. Or let me think about the next person. Or let me just check in and see what we're supposed to be doing. Because I know I'm supposed to take it, but let me just check to see. There's also assumptions made. People should know to do this. But all of those are really dangerous things, right, when you're doing participatory or transdisciplinary research. So I'm going to give you a little break. You can work in groups of 4 or 3 and make something together.
Our team has made something very, very important and incredible. And that is sorry, just ignore that. One second. Okay, well, what it was supposed to be was, thank you. Yeah. It's a strong foundation, because all research is built on a strong foundation. And this right here represents transdisciplinary actions and research and togetherness. Thank you.
We've made a transdisciplinary workshop setting here because we were like, well, you know, what about the question of representation and who's in the room and why? We've got some people that are different sizes in terms of power. We've got this very tall person here who clearly thinks that they're in charge.
That is a leg for a chalkboard. That's also been missing.
So, yeah, we were just interested in representation and who's in the room and why and who they're with and who's holding the power.
We actually built a cargo ship because we also had a random piece that didn't fit anywhere. So that had to become the cargo. And I mean, if we really want to be creative, it can also be about transporting knowledge and that it is about sharing, and that together all of our heads could actually make one product.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm very keen to know what this group here in front made.
So the problem we had, which was an interesting problem, was we had mostly single blocks. So what can you do? You can either make a tower. We kind of played with a street lamp. And then my colleague here decided that twin towers were better. So then we made... So the idea of reconfiguration was kind of interesting.
You added instruction. You all had the same starting point, the same end point. You all had the key question. And you all approached the same challenge, but from your own perspective and thinking. So I'm not going to be speaking for much longer because the lesson is in the activity, and we'll have some more of this in the workshop, where we actually use some methodologies to learn about participatory research and transdisciplinary ways of thinking. And I'd like to conclude with this last slide. And in summary, I would like to say a participatory approach to health research really ensures diverse voices, especially those who are historically marginalized or underrepresented. As much as we invite each other across our disciplines to address challenges, it also makes room for actively engaging others outside of the academy. And it's really a process of co-creating knowledge, shaping research priorities. You always see papers around priority setting with communities. That's what this does. And it influences health policies, it influences practices, it influences life in general when we involve the community, other stakeholders, and work across discipline. So these are the 3 things I want you to leave with. It invites innovation in methods, it invites collaboration between disciplines, and it invites community participation. So I'm going to end there now, and then we can open up for questions. Thank you.
Earlier in your talk, you said it's possible to do this for all research projects. I just wanted you to think about that again. I mean, if somebody's working in a really abstract, esoteric, theoretical, solid-state physics or something, is it really, really possible for all research? That's my one question. And my second question is, how is this, if you've presented this almost as a research methodology to us, as a way of doing research, how is this different for you, or maybe not, from the concept of engaged research that we hear so much about at the moment?
So we'll start with the first one. Is this possible for all research? In my mind, it is. So this place I live in, yes. Because you can do astrophysics and be writing in your book. Actually, I had a conversation with a mathematician. We want to write in the retreat together. And he spent hours just sitting in the sun doing calculations in his book. But when we spoke about the meaning that makes for the rest of us, we could talk about it and come up with insights together. So it might not be possible throughout the research process in some disciplines, but I definitely think there's an opportunity to use it in spaces within different research studies. So in this head, yes. Thinking about engaged research and transdisciplinary research, anyone can do engaged research, even if they're working in their own discipline. So I can work as a psychologist and I can do engaged research, meaning I can work with people, I can work with different stakeholders, but I still, when I analyze, when I think about, when I plan, when I map, when I design, when I report, I do it with psychological theories. I do it with psychological sets of analyses. I publish and share in psychological spaces. But when I do transdisciplinary and engaged research, then I start inviting others to be co-researchers with me, and I start merging different ways of thinking, if that makes sense.
Then, have you heard of something, an approach called methodological agility?
No.
Okay, so especially in transdisciplinary research, when you're starting out and you don't always know what the questions are, different stages of the project will demand different types of disciplinary approaches. So at one point you might be working in a monodisciplinary way, and then you could move into multidisciplinary, and then other parts of the project could be transdisciplinary, and one doesn't always know that at the outset. And so that's...
I think we should add that into the slide deck.
Yeah, it says a methodological agility and ability to move between different disciplinary approaches depending on the question or the demands of that particular stage.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. While you're thinking and ruminating on some further questions, or maybe even sharing, like Astrid did, something interesting, new concepts, I think everybody would like to hear them. I'd like to just share 2 things briefly. So we've started the Stellenbosch University Co-Create Lab. So it's based here in the Division of Health Systems and Public Health. And what we offer here is support with qualitative consultations, participatory methods, arts-based research, and then also knowledge translation. So stakeholder mapping or policy briefs, issue briefs, and on the website, so I've put the link here, it's cocreatehealth.co.za. You are able to book consultations with our group. For students, it's a free service. For researchers, unfortunately, it's a paid service. And then second, we have a very exciting conference coming up called the Co-Create Conference in October. So the 30th of September to the 2nd of October, it will be at this campus. We are supported by multiple partners, not really financially, but partnerships are meaningful in other ways. So human capacity, marketing, IT support, venue support, everything that makes a conference happen. So Prof. Peter Naisulu from Department of Global Health is helping us to host this conference within his department. If you go onto the website that's here, and I'll also ask Astrid to share the mailer with everyone who attends today, you're able to submit abstracts until the end of the month and also register. Okay, the registration fees are very low. There is another conference with the HSRC that's happening in Pretoria, the Engaged Research Conference, and we have partnered with them to offer this Cape Town offering and for them to have the Pretoria offering. So you will see their logo is also on our website. We're not in competition, we are working together, especially for people who can't make it to Pretoria. We have this option to attend in Cape Town. So please do have a look at the websites, but I'll also share the mailer with Astrid to share with everyone.
And there's some scholarships. We'll be having scholarships for Public Square members.
Yes, so for those of you that are part of the Public Squares, Astrid, like I said, all the partners are offering in different ways. There are some bursaries for those who are part of the Public Squares. Then we also have some student bursaries. So if you have students who want to attend, who are able to volunteer and support the event, we have bursaries available for students as well. Yes, Prof?
The bursaries are for those who submit an abstract. Is that not so?
Excuse me, Prof?
I'm saying the bursaries are for those who would have submitted an abstract.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
All right. Any last questions? I see we're 5 minutes over time and wonder if your tummies are grumbling. Now I'd like you to put all the blocks back into the bag and put the missing toys on top. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for a good morning.